Okay, let's continue on with what we were discussing earlier. We're going to talk a little bit more about some more questions in the first part. There's two different ways they may introduce this section. They may say, let's talk about where you live, or let's talk about where you live at the moment. Another way to look at the moment is right now, or currently. So, these are very similar questions. Remember when I said before, we have to make sure that we're answering the question. Otherwise, we will be considered to be off topic. And that'll affect your coherence score, which is part of your fluency. So, whenever you see a question like this, when we see, let's talk about where you live, they're thinking, because a lot of students go to school, when they're living in college, they don't live with their parents at home. So if you come from a different province or a different city, it would be different. So they're not talking about your hometown, they're talking about where you live right now, which is like this question here. So when you answer that question, you want to talk about where you're currently living. And here's three different questions. Have you lived in your area for a long time? Now, many students in my classes have trouble with the word area. When you think about the word area is the place where you live. So maybe it's your neighborhood or the community you live in, maybe the district or the province that you live in. So when you're looking at this area, you're thinking about the general area of where your house is or your apartment is. So when you answer this question, you just want to give, and again, have you lived in your area for a long time? You want to give an answer because it's a time question. So you might say, oh, I've lived in my home or my house or my apartment for, 3 years, 4 years. Or a lot of kids will say they've lived in their house their entire life or their whole life. So you want to think about the area. And again, the next question, what do you like about the area where you live now? So this question, live now, this could mean maybe you came from another town or a province. For example, if you came from Namding, maybe your house in Namding and the area where you live in Namding is different than the area you live in now. So they're asking you, what do you like about the area? It doesn't mean about your house, it means about the area. Do you like the shops, or do you like the facilities, like the gyms, or maybe there's a mall in your area, or maybe there's a lot of business, or there's a lot of schools in your area. So you want to talk about something that you like about your area. Many of my students talk about the shops and the restaurants and maybe bars or things like that. So you want to discuss something that you like about the area. And then the last one, what would you like to change about the area where you're living? And again, something in your area that you don't really like, or maybe that could be better or could be improved. One thing I do want to mention, in this question, a lot of people, when they answer this question, will mention Hanoi. You have to remember, Hanoi is a big city, so we don't want to just talk about Hanoi. You want to talk about your neighborhood or the community you live in. So make sure that you understand this question before you answer it, and think about that. Okay? Okay, so let's continue on with this topic. And there's 3 more questions I want to take a look at. What part of your country do you live in? Now remember, when they ask this question, they're talking about Vietnam. So depending on what part of the country you live in, whether you're in the north or the south, and make sure that you're careful with this, because many people get the north and the south confused. The north is in Hanoi, the south is in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon. So make sure that you listen to the question. As I always say, it's very important that you listen to the question before you start to speak. And as a natural native speaker, most natives will take a minute to think about what they're going to say. You have that as well. You need to make sure you take your time, think about the question, and answer the question. So for this one, they want to know, what part of the country do you live in? This one, how has the area changed since you were a child? Again, depending on where you live, because many people that do take the test come from different parts of Vietnam, different parts of the country, the north and the south. So make sure that you're thinking about where you live and how the area has changed since you were a child. In most big cities, your city's going to start to get larger, so maybe you'll talk about how many more people live in the country or in the city, or how big your area is now. Maybe your area wasn't very developed when you were a child, but now it's more developed, and there's more people that live there, maybe more schools, maybe the roads are busier. So think about some of those things, and again, remember about your area. And then the last one, this is very similar to the previous question, except they're asking you, what do you like about where you're living now? What do you like about the area? Again, it's the area, not your house. So they want to talk about how the area affects you. Do you like all the malls? Do you like, or the shopping centers? Or there's a lot of supermarkets? Or maybe you live close to the lake. Maybe you like all the fresh air by the lake. Something like that. Think about, again, the area. Okay, so here's three more. The first one, what kind of place is your city you live in now? In this question, what kind of place, they want to know what type of city it is or what kind of city it is. So they want to know, is it a busy city? Is it a quiet city? Is there a lot of transportation? Is there a lot of convenience, like public transport? Are there buses, trains, things like that? So they want you to give the examiner an idea of what you think your city you live in now is like. So you want to talk a little bit about the city. Again, it's mainly about the city, so it's not about your home. In this next question, is there anything you dislike about your city? And if you're like most people, things like traffic and noise and pollution, those are all things that a lot of people complain about. So maybe think of something else, or one of those that you dislike or you don't like about your city. This question could change. Is there anything you dislike? Or they could say, is there anything you don't like or you do not like about your city? Just again, focus on the question so you hear what they're asking you to talk about, and think about that. And then the last one, this one's a little different. How will your city change in the future? Now this is an opinion question. So this is an opinion question. So they want to know your opinion to this idea. So again, if you live in a city that's grown over the years, you might say what you think will happen in the future with your city. Do you think it will continue to grow? Or if it's a very quiet place, do you think it'll remain quiet? Or it'll be a very quiet or tranquil place. Tranquil means quiet, and let me spell that for you so you can see that. Tranquil, which means quiet. So just you want to talk about what you think. So when you answer this question, you want to start out in my personal opinion, or in my opinion, or from my perspective, I think. So you want to have that in there. And again, it's a future question. So just think about that. Okay?